Welcome to another edition of the Week in Motorsport. Today I'm joined by Damien Smith, the editor of Motorsport magazine, and we'll be talking about Formula One and also the Le Mans test day, and also all the other news from the last week in motorsport. Well, Damien, since we last had a chat, there hasn't been a Formula One race, but there has been quite a lot of news, especially coming from Williams. Big changes there. We've had people leaving, people arriving. What's going on? Is this all a bit drastic, do you think?
I don't think it is too drastic. It was clear this season that something significant had to change at Williams. The team had acknowledged it before the news this week. So as of now, Sam Michael remains technical director until the end of the season, but he has resigned from the team. And the big news is the return of Mike Coughlan to Formula One. And he's obviously best known these days as the guy who was involved in the Spygate scandal between Ferrari and McLaren. He was formerly chief designer at McLaren and was caught red-handed in that whole scandal, received a 2-year ban from Formula One. He served his time, and now he's coming back to the sport in a very high-profile role at Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Coughlan coming back, he's been away, as you said, for 2 years. I mean, is there going to be a lot of media attention when he first comes back after this ban? I mean, I think that's probably what's going to happen, is it not?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interest, definitely. It's a big story, this guy coming back into the sport. There's a blot on his reputation that will always be there. There's no getting around that for him personally and for Williams. They had to consider that in appointing this guy. His job title is chief engineer, and between now and the end of the year, he's going to be working closely with Sam to work out what needs to be done. They need to also employ a new chief aerodynamicist because John Tomlinson has also left the team, who was responsible for this year's car. So a lot of changes. Whether Mike becomes technical director is also the big question for the future, whether they decide that's the best way forward. But the team is in pretty bad situation from the start of this year, and something did need to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they were quick in testing, but as we've seen from performances this year and so far in the races, that they have not been the team that they can be. And I think, we're big fans of Williams. I think every motorsport fan is, because they are, a pure, proper racing team. Do you think it is down to sort of just a bad structuring over the past few years, this dip in form that we've seen? Because, Williams historically has been up there with the best of them.
Yeah, it's not clear cut. Obviously, Williams, compared to how it used to be, they don't have the big corporate sponsorship they used to have. Their budgets are smaller than some of their main competitors, so they're working with a lot less than they had. But things are because things are tight for Williams. They have to work at their optimum. They have to work at the best they can with what they've got. Sam's been a great leader for the team. Basically for the past 10 years, as Patrick Head's taken a step back, Sam's come to the fore, and there were years when he did a tremendous job producing cars that won Grand Prix with Montoya and Ralf Schumacher. But the fact is, with the straightened times that Williams have gone through, they haven't produced the results, and they haven't shown the progress, more importantly, that a team of Williams' capabilities and record should be showing. And I think something had to change.
Moving over to France and the Le Mans test day, Audi certainly looked pretty strong. I think by the end of the testing, they're about 3 seconds a lap faster than the Peugeot. Great news for Audi, but then at the same time, not a great day for Aston. Let's tackle the Audi first. You did a piece in it in the magazine and said that the R18 looks like a very quick car. Looks like you got it right. Sorry, I shouldn't sound surprised, but
I don't know if I got anything right, but certainly Audi have, as expected, with a team of that size, experience, structure, and with that amount of finance behind them, they've produced a very good racing car from what we can see from the test day. It was the pace setter on that Sunday. Two sessions, morning and afternoon. It topped the times. The quickest Peugeot time was only 0.2 slower.
Okay.
So the indications are that we're in for a very good, strong battle at the front of the grid between Audi and Peugeot. It doesn't look like there's an awful lot between them. Obviously, the Peugeot, as you can read in the new issue, is all new as well. So there's a lot of unknowns going into the race for both teams. They're going to have a long list of jobs to look at when practice starts proper at Le Mans for the race. But they're definitely going to be the pace setters. I think one of the biggest talking points was the gap between the turbo diesel works cars and the petrol cars, because this year was supposed to be the year when the ACO set the regs in a way that the petrol cars could compete, and there's no way they can compete. They're so far off. Henri Pescarola was furious that his cars were 9 seconds off the pace of the turbo diesels.
I mean, that's a huge gap. I mean, I know Le Mans is a long circuit, but 9 seconds a lap is that's not recoverable on setup. Put it that way.
No, I mean, he made the point. How does he go to his sponsors and explain that sort of gap? And he doesn't expect to beat the factories. He knows that beating Audi and Peugeot for an overall victory is highly unlikely for the best privateer team. But he needs to be able to show that he can at least compete. And I think at the moment, the rules have failed to close the gap. And in fact, they seem to have widened the gap. So it should be looked at again and possibly changed between now and the race weekend. And another big telling point will be the Spa 1,000 kilometres this weekend coming up, because that's where the Audi makes its race debut against the Peugeot, and we'll get a clear idea at Spa of how it races and the pace compared to the petrol cars.
Yeah, I mean, you just touched on it there. There's the Peugeot and Audi are two huge factory teams, and you would expect them to be faster than privateers. But I was speaking to Darren Turner, who races for Aston, and he said the problem is that the ACO are pegging back the diesels, but not fast enough, because the diesel technology it's quite new technology, certainly in race cars. So they can find bigger strides than you ever can with a petrol car. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, I'm sure Darren's spot on there. That's what's happening, I think. And with the new rules, Audi have gone for closed cars. We talk about in the issue. I think they found some speed that way. The lap times overall have dropped, as the ACO wanted. They wanted to get the lap times closer to the 3:30 kind of mark. The quickest time recorded at the test was 3:27. So they have slowed the cars by a few seconds a lap. That's worked. But having said that, Pescarola again said that he thought that come qualifying at the race, the Audis and Peugeots will find more speed and will get quicker again. So it's not going to get any easier for them. They need to look at the regulations again before we go any further.
Yeah, and as we touched on Darren Turner and Aston Martin there, they did not have a good day. Engine issues. I mean, and I think they've now withdrawn from Spa. It's not great news, is it?
It's not. I think we were always very aware that they were being hugely ambitious with this program, which was commissioned late. They've had very little time to prepare these all-new cars that include an all-new engine as well. And they were always going to have teething problems. The problem they've got is the teething problems have been so extreme, they haven't actually completed very much mileage. And the mileage they have completed, the lap times have been nowhere near anything else. So I think they are probably more than aware that there's great scope for embarrassment this year. But they're looking long term, and I think we need to be a little bit patient with Aston Martin. Expectations this year should be low. They certainly will be now, given the performance in the test day. But this is going to be a big learning year for them, a very public one, probably quite humiliating at times. But as I say, I think we need to look long term, look towards next year and the year after. And also look to the ACO at the same time to guarantee that when they do get their handle on their new car, that they are given the chance to actually compete with the diesels.
Ralf Schumacher has scored his first podium in the German Touring Car Championship. Yep, you heard that right. The German, after 3 seasons of the DTM, finally made it onto the podium at Hockenheim with a strong third position. And Bruno Spengler opened his season well with a dominant victory from pole position. After a delayed start to the Sao Paulo race, Will Power came through to win his second race of the season. The organisers tried to run the race on Sunday, but soon light drizzle turned to rain and the race was postponed to Monday. Power now leads the championship by 14 points to Dario Franchitti. Oriol Servia is third and Long Beach winner Mike Conway fourth. It looked like Jorge Lorenzo had the Estoril race in the bag, but Dani Pedrosa kept in touch with the reigning world champion and finally passed him with 4 laps to go, despite racing with an injured shoulder. The anticipated battle between poleman Lorenzo and fellow front row starter Marco Simoncelli, who entertained the media with an argument after the press conference, failed to materialise after the Italian crashed on the first lap.
Eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed that Ed here has a slight deformity this week. Ed, tell us what happened to your neck.
I went off to have a look at the MR2 Championship, which has got Toyota sponsorship this year, and very kindly offered a race seat by Toyota. So obviously bit their hand off and arrived at Brands Hatch, and have to say that the driving standards were mixed, I'll say that. But actually the accident I was involved in, the last race on Sunday, was sort of no one's fault. It was a racing incident, and as I came out of Druids, a car spun in front of me and I T-boned it. It's what I thought was mild whiplash has actually turned into a ruptured disc that has gone into my spinal cord. So it was a great weekend, but it ended very badly. So there's one wrecked MR2 in England somewhere.
Yeah, I actually went down to Brands Hatch to watch Ed on the Saturday. It was a very good 750 Motor Club meeting, 2-day meeting. And on the Saturday, he did very well. And we were talking in the paddock afterwards about maybe we should buy one of these cars between us and split the...
How keen are you now?
Yeah, I'm slightly less keen, having got the text and then the phone call on Sunday to say what had happened and seen the video as well. So club racing is clearly more expensive and dangerous than I thought.